Unit 4, Video 1, list the differences between the North and the South. The North and the South, from the very beginning, from the Pilgrims to Jamestown, were different. And they only will diverge more as we go towards the Civil War. Different people set these areas up. There were different climates and environments in these areas. Different economies are formed. And so the cultures and views and beliefs completely went in different directions. I know it's the United States, but there really isn't a United States until after the Civil War. So we have different economies, different beliefs, different people, slavery, no slavery. So we're going to see these big differences eventually lead to a war. The North is industrialized. They take raw goods and then manufacture them through mechanization and through machines, and then they sell those goods. They create factories. That's where their jobs are. That drives their economy. The South is agrarian. It's agriculture-driven economy. They raise crops, cash crops, tobacco, indigo, cotton. They raise livestock. They raise these crops and animals, and then they sell them. That drives their economy. So it really is two separate nations when you look at the differing economies. Let's look closer at the North. Let's imagine that the North, in their factories, they make widgets every day, and they have to sell widgets. They're going to make 100 widgets today. They're going to make 100 widgets tomorrow. So they're making widgets every single day, and they're piling up and piling up. So what you got to do is you got to sell them. Otherwise, you run out of space in your warehouse. Well, the only way to sell them is you got to get them to the store every day. And if you're going to get 100 widgets to the store every single day, you need a road. You need to be able to get your widgets to the store, bring the truck back. Make your widgets, take them to the store, bring the truck back every single day. So as the North industrializes, and part of that was because of the environment and the climate and the people that established it, so they went manufacturing. And when they went manufacturing, they realized in their brain, like, hey, if we're going to make goods every day, we've got to be able to get these goods to the market, so we've got to build roads. And so the people in the North agreed, we've got to build roads, we need roads. It's common sense. If you're going to have an industrial economy, you're going to need roads so that you can get your goods back and forth to the market. The South does not build roads. And you might say, why aren't you building roads? If you look at the North, they've got roads. They're able to industrialize. The South doesn't build roads or canals, which are waterways that work as roads. They don't do it because they're an agricultural-based economy. It's agrarian. They're not making widgets every day. They don't have to go to the market every day. They only have to go to the market once or twice a year during harvest. They raise their livestock, they raise their corn, they harvest it, and they sell it. So you only have to take it to the market once or twice. So why build roads? Why use the time and the labor to build roads when you can use that time and labor on other actions and opportunities? Why raise the tax dollars to pay for the roads when you're not going to use the roads? So the South never builds roads, and you can see that on the map. There are much more roads, much more canals and railroads in the North than there are in the South, because the South didn't need to give up the land. They didn't need to waste the land. They didn't need to waste the time. They didn't need to waste the labor. And there's some other reasons. If you read some of Thomas Sowell's writing explaining why they didn't build roads, why they didn't industrialize, but this is just the obvious reason. They don't need the roads, so they never built the roads. And so we're going to have, again, that separation. The North going in one way, the South going in another way. They're developing into two different nations. Obviously, something bad is going to happen. The North builds roads, the South doesn't build roads. I know that you can't see this clearly, but you can assume that because of the roads, you're going to get more factories. And because of no roads, you're not going to get industrialization in the South. The South is not going to industrialize. The North will because they can, because of the roads. It's just going to go in one direction, and the South's going to kind of stay the same. If you want to envision, the North is changing and growing and advancing, whereas the South hasn't really changed much since Jamestown and Roanoke. And as you build more roads and more factories with more jobs, you're going to have a population increase. The South is not going to have this population increase. When people come into the country, then they're going to go to where the jobs are, just like today. When people migrate or immigrate into America, you go to where the opportunity is. So when people immigrate or move into the country, it's going to be where the jobs are. One of the downsides of this is that you're going to overcrowd cities. And when you have overcrowded cities, disease spreads, and you're also going to have an increase in crime and violence. It's not all a good thing. So people in the South might be saying, well, yeah, that's great. You've got factories and you're growing, but not all growth is good. Not all change is good change. We're fine down here with our farms where we're not killing each other. We've got slavery, but we're fine down here where we've got plenty of open space and we're not breathing in pollution and we have horse blank all over the streets every day. We're cool down here in the South. Now, the other part of the equation is, well, you also need food. You can't just have jobs and factories and you get a population increase. You need food. Well, they're able to do this because over here in the Midwest or the old Northwest, you can ship the food in through transportation routes. So now that they have the food and the jobs, you're going to have a real population increase. You're also going to have the spillover population increase over here in the old Northwest, which is going to really divide the country. Up here north of Kentucky, the South, it's not changing much, but this area is rapidly advancing, rapidly changing, rapidly progressing, population increasing, becoming very diverse, and then we have really static, stagnant South. That may not necessarily be a bad thing in some people's views. The static, stagnant South was starting to wake up to the idea like, yeah, this growing cotton, selling cotton, we're not really making a lot of money. It's time consuming. It's inefficient. Maybe we should industrialize. And they were considering following the same path as the North until like what Whitney creates or steals the idea from Nathaniel Greene's wife for the cotton gin, and now it becomes really easy to clean the cotton, to sell the cotton, to make money off cotton, and boom. Now, slavery and the agricultural path of the South was about to die. It was possible that people in the South were going to abandon the old economy and embrace the new economy that the North was using. But because of the cotton gin and other variables, but mainly the cotton gin, the South said, whoa, not so fast. Well, we're good. We'll just keep doing this agricultural thing. Now, as slavery becomes more important because money can be made through the cotton gin, the slave owners need to have an ability. I know it's terrible to view this, but they need to be able to protect their risky investments. And so they passed laws that punish runaway slaves and then also make it so the slaves cannot get an education. That's really an important deal. If you do not read very well, if you cannot read at all, or if you can only read words, if you struggle to comprehend chapters, a lot of doors in your life will be closed. I can admit to that myself. I was one of those people that say, oh, I can read words. Congratulations, you can read. I could read words, but I say, oh, I'm not interested in this. I don't like these books that you read, or I just don't like reading. Yeah, well, that's what I would say because I couldn't really read and didn't want to admit it. I could read words. I knew all the words. I could talk. I knew all the things. But if I really sat down and had to read 100 pages and think about it and comprehend it and make all these inferences, I couldn't do that. I didn't want to admit to that. And so many opportunities and doors were shut. And not until I finally started working on reading and really taking my time and understanding and putting in the work, the doors start to open up. Same thing here with the slavery code. Slave owners knew that you could keep people trapped in slavery. Just like today, a lot of people know how if you want to keep people down, make sure they can't read. If you want to oppress people, if you want to marginalize Americans, it's really easy. You don't need laws to do it anymore. You don't need to violently oppress or marginalize people. You don't have to fill their ideas with all kinds of, all you got to do is just don't read. Go watch TV, watch Netflix, play video games. Please don't read. And the more time you spend playing video games, watching Netflix, watching TV, watching interesting shows, the less time you spend reading, the doors will close and close. They know what they're doing. Who is they? I don't know. It's the new slave owners, I guess. Activism and social change. This is not a hard, fast rule, but this is a theme that you might see in your life. The people who are struggling, when Americans are struggling, we look to a higher power. We look to a supernatural entity. We pray. Faith increases during hard times. During good times, people forget God. They forget that supernatural power. They believe that I can do it on my own because I have money, I have power, I have strength, I have a house, I have a 2-car garage. I'm in control. I don't need God. When you feel like you're not in control and you feel like the world's out to get you and everything's going wrong, that's when you look to God for help. When you feel like, oh, I got this, I don't need God. This is a theme that sometimes we see. It's not a hard, fast rule, but sometimes it can give you the background. Like today, a lot of people are doing really well. I know we think that people are struggling, but the reality is the median income is a lot higher than it has ever been. Do you have a car? Then you're doing pretty well. Do you have a house? Do you have a shelter above your head? Do you have clothes? Do you have a phone? You're probably doing pretty well. I know you don't have as much as someone else, but you have a lot more than about 90% of the world's population. You're doing pretty well. And you don't really have to worry about anything because corporations are running the show. They're making the laws. They're making sure that the trains are running on time. You don't really have very many responsibilities. Like, yeah, I do. I got to mow my yard. Come on. Yeah, but I got to make sure I go to school. Is that a responsibility? I got to make sure my little brother is that really your big responsibility? You really don't have any responsibilities. And a lot of our parents don't have any real responsibilities. They're not making sure that the world is working. I mean, here's the thing. Imagine some of the stuff that your parents do. If they didn't do it, would the world fall apart? Think about that. Look at one of your responsibilities. If you didn't do it, would the world fall apart? If your mom or dad didn't do that one thing, would the world end? Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, we don't really have a lot of big responsibilities. And so we're pretty much carefree. We're free to do whatever we want. And in those cases, faith goes away. And it's similar, same thing happened during the American Revolution. People didn't have to run their government. We don't have to run the government today because the corporations do it for us. They pretty much run the show. The king ran the show. And I know we talk about, oh, the king, he was doing everything. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, hey, the king's doing everything. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to go hang out at the tavern. I'm going to go out to the park. I'm going to have fun with my kids. I don't have to worry about the government. I don't have to worry about the direction of the economy. I don't have to worry about wars. I don't have to worry about American Indians. The king's got this. We often tell kids like, oh, the king was doing everything. The king was doing everything. You didn't have any responsibilities. You could live whatever you wanted. You were free. You were in control. And when you feel like you're in control, you don't need a higher power to tell you what to do. And during this time period, if you read renegade history, people were absolute drunks. They were lazy, they had no education, and they didn't feel guilty about it because there was no real religion. They didn't feel like it was a sin because they weren't religious. They didn't feel bad about sloth because there wasn't any religion. Pretty wild times. John Adams realized this, like, we got to fix this. We need people to be more disciplined. We need people to be active. We need people to stop getting drunk every day and partying every day. And so his plan to do this was democracy. You probably didn't realize this. One of the reasons the Founding Fathers created a democracy, meaning rule by the people, means because the people had to rule. You couldn't just let the king do it. Today, we just let the corporations and the elite run the country while we go and watch Netflix and play video games every day. Adams realized this. No, we need a democracy, because if it's a democracy where the people run the country, then the people have got to do it. The people have responsibility. Today, I don't have to run the country. Your parents don't have to run the country. You don't have to run the country. You don't have any real responsibility. You have personal family responsibilities, but you don't have to run the country. When you create a real democracy, you have to run the country. And if you're running the country, you can't get drunk. You can't watch Netflix all day. And also, they'll throw another idea of religion on there to make you feel sinful and bad about doing these things and irresponsible if you don't do these things. That's democracy. Maybe you don't want democracy. People are saying, oh, that's why democracy works. Some people are probably watching saying, can we go back to the king? Well, guess what? We have the king. We have a new form of monarchy. You don't run the government. So if you get rid of democracy and you let a king run it, or you let the corporations run it, you don't have any responsibility, you can party all the time, and you basically feel like you're your own self and you're in control. And that's kind of why we get a lot of these new beliefs. People find new religions. People abandon Jesus and they go to environmentalism. Environmentalism is their new God that's taken over because of the situation. Or wokeness or critical theory has taken over their lives. That's their new religion. That's their new Bible that they have done. So maybe if we go back to democracy, we go back to responsibility, then we can reverse this stuff. But right now where we are, where we have corporations and the elite running everything, we have responsibility. People are, insane amount of heroin deaths, people binge watching Netflix and playing video games all the time. They feel, and so we have the death of religion and the replacement with a new religion. During this time period, if we rewind the clock in American history to the early 1800s, instead of creating a new religion, instead of wokeness taking over, they say, no, let's just bring Jesus back. And so you have these revivals where people are being saved. And we still have some of this in the South. It's mainly here in the South is where it takes over in the Midwest. The Baptists and the Methodists will really bring it back because they realize people are getting drunk too much. They're partying too much. They're not disciplined. We need to bring back religion and tell people how they really are supposed to live their lives. It's kind of what we're doing today. Instead of it being a Christian effort, it's more of a woke version of, you're a terrible person, you need to atone for your sins. So we're kind of seeing this again today. We're having an awakening, but it's more along racial lines. It's more along wokeness. Same thing kind of happened then, where they're calling people sinners and making you ask Jesus for forgiveness and ask to be saved. And we're seeing this during some of these protests and riots where people are being forced to admit to the things that they haven't done to be saved. And it's really interesting. It's not, history doesn't repeat, but history rhymes. Another movement, just like today, we're getting all these movements. Again, similar time period, we're having movements. Temperance movement is where alcohol is being banned and shamed and becoming illegal. And because people realize alcohol is causing people to be lazy, not raise their children, do terrible things in their family household, not be productive citizens. And a lot of it is the alcohol that's doing it, period. And so a movement to ban alcohol. You have prison and mental health reform. So prisons where Dorothea Dix will help make the prisons better, make the mental health institutes better. Horace Mann, education reform. And so in your typical education classroom, they're going to tell you in history classroom, they're going to say, oh, it's awesome. This guy created the education system that we have today that's lifted up tons of American citizens. So what did Horace Mann believe in? Universal public education was the best way to turn unruly American citizens into disciplined, judicious citizens. You guys are having too much fun. You're living too wild. What we need to do is brainwash American children into being disciplined, judicious citizens. And guess what? Hasn't changed much today. What do we do in schools? We basically turn you into someone that can be controlled and go to work every day. Sorry, folks. We want to take you from unruly, and we're going to, but in his defense, if you are disciplined and you are a judicious citizen, there's going to be a lot of opportunities and you can have a very successful life. So he's saying, hey, if we give education, we can really lift everyone out of poverty. That is true, but it's a trade-off. The government's going to brainwash you into a way to think, but if we brainwash everyone, we can probably lift everybody up. Would you rather have people be rich and people be really poor, but no one gets brainwashed? You have to decide what you want. I don't know the answer. William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass are going to be told in your videos that these guys are best friends and they did everything great. Sure, kind of, maybe. William Lloyd Garrison was probably one of the most hated Americans. You're not going to get this in most of your history books, and don't put this on the AP test. If you want to get a 5 on your AP test, don't say that William Lloyd Garrison was hated. We have honored him. He is a hero. He is a saint now because he was an abolitionist who fought against slavery. The reality was he was a rabble-rouser. He caused problems everywhere he went, and people wanted to kill him. Now, people didn't want to kill him because they loved slavery. Let me repeat that. People did not want to kill him because they loved slavery. They wanted to kill him, and I'm not exaggerating, they wanted to kill him because they knew he was inciting problems, he was instigating problems, and if he continued, he was going to cause a civil war. They knew he would cause a war. They wanted to kill him so the country didn't go to war. They did not kill him, and we went to war. You're not going to get that one in your AP guidelines. You're like, this guy's a heroic guy. He's fighting against slavery. And that's true. But he was also pushing the country towards war that would kill, almost 1 million people. Frederick Douglass would work for him, give speeches, and eventually Lloyd Garrison will go radical and really push and say, look, the Constitution's pro-slavery. We got to start a new nation. There's no reason in bringing this together. Let's just start a new state. Frederick Douglass says, that's not what the Constitution says. If it was pro-slavery, then how am I right here? Look at me. I'm a free man. I'm working for you. I'm giving speeches. People love me. How could that be the case if it was pro-slavery? You're getting too radical. You're getting too crazy, Garrison. And he gets canceled. What? That's right. William Lloyd Garrison and the Abolitionists canceled Frederick Douglass because he disagreed with their faith. He disagreed with their radical view. And so the white man cancels the former slave for not being enough of a slave. He cancels the black man for not being black enough. The white man does it. And normally we would say, oh, that's crazy. But in the modern times that we live in, should we be, when we look at today and we're shocked at the crazy things that happen every day, should we be shocked when William Lloyd Garrison and the Abolitionists are able to cancel Frederick Douglass and force him to start his own newspaper, the North Star? Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, you probably know this from your elementary education, they helped slaves escape under the Underground Railroad. Don't ask Kanye West about that. Nat Turner will lead a slave revolt in 1831. There were many slave revolts. This will be the most famous. It doesn't work out for Nat Turner, but it paints the picture of giving you an idea of the turmoil and the turbulence in America and the American South. So we have the North, the South, sectionalism. List the differences, understand them. I apologize if I offended anyone. That's that.